Okay. Good afternoon, fellow classmates. I would like to start off by saying that my speech is going to be about why adoption is better than in vitro fertilization. Before I go on, though, how many of you know if you're a test tube baby? None of you. N- n- None of you might know it really until after you see this video, and you might still be in doubt, and you might want to ask your parents.
The menstrual cycle of passes into the uterine tubes to away. The technique of in vitro fertilization, or IVF, removes several eggs from the ovary for fertilization in the laboratory. After a few days, one or two of these fertilized eggs, which are now known as embryos, are returned to the uterus in the hope that they implant and become a pregnancy. Women having IVF are given special reproductive hormones to encourage several eggs to develop in the ovaries. Final maturation of the egg itself is induced by the administration of a further hormone. 36 hours later, fluid containing the eggs is drawn from the ovary with a needle. This is usually performed under light sedation in a short outpatient procedure with the doctor using ultrasound to check proceedings. The eggs collected from the ovary are then mixed with a sample of the male partner's sperm, which has already been washed and concentrated. The eggs and sperm are left in an incubator set at 37 degrees for 24 hours so that fertilization can take place. During this time, only one of the many sperm cells will penetrate the outer layer of the egg and achieve fertilization. Following fertilization, the cells divide and multiply and form an embryo. After 2 or 3 days, a healthy embryo will comprise around 8 cells. It is then transferred to the uterus by means of a thin, flexible tube, where it is left to implant and form a pregnancy.
Okay, well, now that you saw that video, now you get a sense of what in vitro fertilization is, and you might want to ask your parents if you're a test tube baby. Okay, according to the website the Dave Thomas Foundation, approximately 115,000 children are waiting to be adopted of all ages every year. This number is decreasing though because many people opt to have children of their own, in other words, blood related children. It's a beautiful thing to have children of your own that you can call your own, but yet again, there is many times when people can't, due to certain circumstances, you can't have children of your own, so you have to find alternatives. But what people are looking forward to do is in vitro fertilization many times because it's an alternative to actually producing an egg of a zygote naturally. But many times that also fails. So my my for me, I think it's better for you to adopt. I have a cousin that had an infertility problem, so she couldn't have kids. So she asked her doctor about in vitro fertilization, and the doctor performed it. It was pretty pricey. It ranged from 15,000, I believe, for one cycle, and it didn't work. It failed. So people convinced her to adopt, and she did, and now she's living happy with her family. Okay, I believe that adopting a child instead of using IVF in vitro fertilization saves money, time, and is morally correct. I will first discuss some issues behind in vitro fertilization. Then I will with you the problems behind in vitro, and then why adoption is the best thing to do instead. Okay, so first, you must inform yourself in order to comprehend what in vitro is. So first, I'm gonna talk to you about some issues behind in vitro that actually sparked attention to society in recent times. Okay, so according to the website Utah's People's Post, last updated on February 2014, there was a case in which a mother wanted to have in vitro fertilization to create her baby, but she wanted three parents, not just two, not just a regular mom and dad, but she wanted two mothers, and one dad. For the fact that, there is everybody is born with a chance of developing disease due to genes, and by having three parents and not two, they could modify that so that you won't develop diseases later into the future. But that also causes problems because it affects society and it affects the child's brain as well. Not just in general, but to the child mainly. In another case, posted on the Sydney Morning Herald, last updated on February 2014, there was a case where Mary Costas, a comedian, had lost her daughter due to some birth problems, and she lost her daughter like in the first 3 months when she gave birth, and she tried having other kids, but she failed. So she looked into in vitro, and she had in vitro 20 times, 20 cycles, and they all failed until recently she had one last one and it was successful. But imagine 20 times having in vitro, that's a lot of money. If each cycle of in vitro ranges from $10,000 to $15,000, that's a lot. Okay. In vitro. Oh, moving on. I just talked to you about some issues. Now I'll talk to you about why it's wrong. Okay, so in vitro does relieve people. It does relieve parents, but it's also wrong. It's I believe that when they choose in vitro, it's like putting a price tag to a child. If it wasn't meant to be for a child to be born for whatever reason, it wasn't meant to be, and it's it's not 100% successful, as I previously mentioned, and that's proven. I got that source from WebMD.com. Okay, moving on. I just talked to you about why it's wrong, and why now I'm gonna talk to you about why adoption is the best alternative. There is many children waiting to be adopted every year. In the Dave Thomas Foundation last updated on November 2010, there is 423,000 children in foster care, aging from newborns to the age of 18. Every year, 115,000 are waiting to be adopted. In 2009, 29,471 children turned 18 and they moved out of foster care without being adopted. That's a large number. If people would adopt instead of using in vitro, those numbers could decrease by a lot. And adoption is very affordable. Not like in vitro where it's really pricey. In adoption, they usually cover every fees by an agency. I just talked to you about how adoption is the best alternative. I will Now to conclude my speech, I okay, yeah. Adopting a child instead of using in vitro saves money, time, and is morally incorrect. And I first talked to you about some issues, then why in vitro is wrong, and why you should opt to adopt instead of using in vitro. That's it. Thank you.